So, and that was kind of funny because we had a talent show, and it was a Christian school, like very conservative Christian, and we wanted to play Hunger Strike by Temple of the Dog.
That's what a choice. That's a good one.
Yeah.
So this podcast is about you, your journey in music. You told me a little bit about it in that first interview, but I want to talk to you about Straylight Run and putting out this live record that was shelved for 15 years or so.
Yeah, since 2005. So I don't know where that puts us now, like 16 years maybe.
Wow. I want to see if I can share my screen with you real quick. I just want to show you this picture. I think you'll get a kick out of it.
Yeah.
Hang on. Can you see it?
Oh yeah.
This is
When is that from?
This is from 2003, the first Straylight Run tour that came through San Diego. You guys played with New Amsterdams.
Oh, hold on a second. Oh man.
You remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah. That's a very long, that was our first tour.
Yeah, I think it was the first time you guys toured. And yeah, you came through with New Amsterdams and you played this little club called the Epicenter in San Diego. It's not even a thing anymore.
I remember that place.
You played there with Taking Back Sunday too.
Yeah, we played there a lot in the early, I think up till 2005 or so. It was not a great place. That was not a place that I was very sad to see go.
Sure.
Unfortunately.
It wasn't the greatest venue in town for sure.
Yeah.
But it did have some cool bands. Yeah, I saw you guys there with Rufio. You did one of the earlier Taking Back Sunday tours. You played there with Rufio.
Yeah, probably in 2002.
Ish. Sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, again, dude, I'm so excited to chat with you. Real quick, so you're born in Baltimore and you were there until what, 3 or so?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Born in Baltimore, and then you moved into Long Island?
I moved to Long Island, to Freeport, New York.
Okay.
Which is on Long Island.
And what was it like growing up there?
It's pretty standard suburbs. It's about 45-minute drive or less or more, depending on traffic, to New York City. Train is about the same. So it's pretty standard suburban type upbringing. And Long Island, at least that area, is just sort of wall to wall suburbs for miles and miles. It doesn't start clearing out till you go like way out east, about an hour from where I lived. So it's just suburbs on top of suburbs.
Sure. With the train access, were you able to get into New York frequently or not really? Or was that something you didn't really do?
Somewhat. Yeah, that was one of the things that was really great about living there. Like when I was a kid, I would go to the Museum of Natural History in New York City, which is a great place as a kid to be able to visit.
Sure.
And when I was getting to be older, like a younger teenager, my uncle would take all of his nieces and nephews out to operas occasionally in the city, and that was always like a real exciting thing, and something I think that was pretty unique to being that close to New York City. And it wasn't like we would be in the city a ton, but it definitely was a part of my life.
That's cool. When you if you attend an opera, do you have to like dress up? It's probably it's like a big thing, right? Like a pretty fancy affair.
Yeah, we would I think dress up sort of in probably like church clothes.
Okay.
My guess looking back on it is that we were probably sort of frowned on by the other regular opera theater goers, because
Gotcha.
we were ranging in age from like 10 or 11 to 14, and I'm sure
not appreciating it as much as some of the other people there.
Yeah, well, I think probably our etiquette was just totally off, because you don't really know how to behave in those situations. But I always loved it. I particularly liked watching the orchestra. That was the big thing. I would really like pay attention to that. That was always very interesting to me.
In our last chat, you talked about being kind of drawn to the guitarist in the church. You grew up with the church, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And is that kind of what pulled you in the way of, I mean, as far as being interested in playing guitar?
Yeah, that was my first introduction to it. Um, yeah, the church that I went to, it was a kind that would have a band
Mhm.
that, that played worship songs, and that was the first time I played guitar, was learning those songs. And the guy who played guitar in the worship band also taught me a lot about guitar. And really, I think there was another person too. A lot of the first people that taught me stuff were in the church when I was about 15, 16.
Okay. I've heard that before though, like people playing in the church or really getting involved in music through the church, because not only you have an audience, right? I mean, you're already playing
Yeah,
in front of people right away. It's not like you're taking years to get out and then playing in some bar with 5 people. You're playing in front of a fairly big crowd right away. Did you play in the church
yeah,
band at all?
I did. Yeah, they let me play pretty quickly, which was very cool of them. And I was definitely not good enough to be playing in front of people yet. I probably was playing for a year, and they started letting me play. And but our church was pretty small too. It was on average about 20 people there every Sunday, so
Mhm.
it was a pretty low pressure situation, and that is probably why a lot of people end up learning in a church scenario, because it's also it's a worship thing, so people are generally more forgiving about
Sure.
making mistakes, because it's not really supposed to be about having an amazing performance. So
Mhm.
it's a good place to learn how to play in front of people.
Mhm. Was guitar the first instrument you learned how to play?
Yeah, we always
Okay.
had a piano in my house, and I would mess around with it, but I didn't know how to play it. I would kind of sit down and try to play things by ear, but I didn't actually learn about piano till a couple of years after learning guitar.
Oh, okay. So it's just something that what transferred over fairly easily. I mean, piano is a difficult instrument, but learning guitar, it was you started to hear notes and chords, and you were able to kind of go over and tinker more on the piano at that age.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the thing was, what I did with piano, again with the church songs, a lot of times the way they did it is they would have the words with just the chords over the
Oh,
parts where you had to
okay.
change. And then I started learning the chords on the piano. And so once you learn that, you can kind of sit down with anything at least basic, like some of those easier worship songs, and just
Mhm.
play by the chords and following. And so that's where I started out. Once I knew guitar, it wasn't that hard to transfer the reading chords and messing around on piano with it.
Sure. It's like kind of like a tablature thing where it would say like A for over the words, and then have like a B if it changed that chord progression or whatever the next note would be.
Yeah, yeah, it's just the words all written out, and show the chords are over the word where the chord change
Sure.
happens,
Oh,
basically.
okay. That's cool. You had a piano in the house. Did your parents play at all?
My mom always played piano, and she was always in the worship groups, and so she would sing and play piano for my whole life. She still does.
Oh, wow. Professionally, or she just did it as something to do at church or?
No, it was always in the church. She would do some things sometimes. She did something in nursing homes where she would go, and that was kind of outside the church, and
Mhm.
and sing. And the church would go out and do some more performance things. It was more like evangelical, kind of like trying to go out to a park or something, and
Mhm.
get people to come listen to music, and then you preach to them. And so that was a little more like a concert thing. So she would do that, and I would do that
Oh,
too,
okay.
which always felt a little more like a performance than being at church.
Sure. That's cool. So you guys would go out to different locations and set up and perform for people.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So 15, you said you got the guitar. How old were you when you started learning?
Not too long after I got the guitar. I think I got serious somewhere between 15 and 16.
Okay. And were you always writing your own songs, or were you always trying to learn other songs, cover songs?
I did both, but pretty quickly I wanted to use it to write songs, and I'm not even sure why, but I just kind of instinctively wanted to write songs. So basically, at the beginning, I would learn how to play other people's songs, and then try to like write my version
Oh,
of
okay.
those songs, or use the things I learned from those songs to like write a song myself, you know.
Have you, I mean, you must have always had like a knack for writing or creative writing. I mean, your lyrics are so good. I mean, just what
Well,
you guys put out, and the lyrics that you write and everything Straylight Run's done in your solo projects. Was that something that you have always been pretty good at or always interested in as far as creative writing?
yeah, I've always been interested in it. I think when I was starting writing songs, I think I was probably good for my age and for just starting out. You know, like now, if I was to look at some of the lyrics and some of the ideas I had, it would be pretty embarrassing. But I think really for just kind of starting out with no frame of reference, I had some kind of knack for it. I think a lot of the stuff with writing that helped me was I was always a big reader when I was a kid. I
Mhm.
started reading pretty young and was like really into it. So I read a whole lot, you know, from being 5 years old to a teenager. So I think most of what I learned about writing, I just picked up from reading, because I wasn't particularly good at writing in school, or I was okay at creative writing, but I think anything I knew about how to write a song came from reading, basically.
Oh, interesting. And
Yeah.
with that, what do you remember showing some of your song for the first time? Like, was that in a band setting? Because you talked about playing in the church band, but obviously you're playing those songs that are already there for you. But you start playing your own music that you've written. When was that time period for you? Like, did you start a band first, or were you writing these songs and then showing them to people?
There was a couple things I had going. I think the first times I wrote songs, I recorded them on a just a tape recorder,
Hmm.
and I think played them for my parents, and they were always supportive, and you know, and encouraging. So that was helpful, because I think that was the first time I played a song I wrote for anybody. And then after that, there was a kid I met at church who was a drummer, and he was actually like really good for that age. You know, he was a little older than me, but he was in bands in his school, and they were like, well, at least in my mind, they were pretty serious, because they would on the weekends like play shows at bars and stuff, and
Hmm.
they were kind of in this network of other bands from his high school. But I would just get together with him, just the two of us, and me playing guitar, and that was the first time I played songs with another person. And so that got me going. And then later in high school, I put together a band with my friends to do the talent show.
Oh, wow.
And we found a guy in our class who was a good drummer, and then I taught my friend to play bass, and I kind of showed my other friend some guitar stuff, and he started learning on his own, and we basically put it together. Like they learned so that we could be in a band
A
together,
band.
basically. And so, and that was kind of funny, because we had a talent show, and it was a Christian school, like very conservative Christian, and we wanted to play Hunger Strike by Temple of the Dog.
That's what a choice. That's a good one.
Yeah, I loved that song. I still love that
That's a
song.
great song.
Yeah, it was actually very hard to do the Chris Cornell part, which I think I was
Oh,
trying to do. It's very high.
I can imagine.
I still don't think I can sing that part. But what happened though is our parents, or some of our parents, my parents included, heard the song that we wanted to play, and they told us we weren't allowed to play it because it was like socialist propaganda. And I didn't really understand what they were talking about. I was like, I don't know, it just sounds like a song about like wanting to help out other people and like
Right.
not wanting to like take more than your share when other people are starving, and that sounds like a good thing to me.
Right, right.
Which maybe was the first glimpse of like where I would start splitting off politically from my parents in church.
Sure.
So they told us we couldn't play the song, so instead I decided to teach my friends a song that I wrote, and it actually came together pretty quickly.
Wow.
And that was, I think, the first time we performed a song that I wrote.
That's a bold move, though, to do that in front of all of your peers, right? I mean, the first time you're going to play a song in front of people, not only you're going to do that for the first time, but it's going to be a song that you wrote. And now you got to take the criticism, or you got to go to school with these people for the rest of the year and the next few years. Was that even a thought in your mind?
No, it's kind of weird. Like I would be nervous when I was playing in front of people, of course, but I didn't really care what people thought that much about my songs. Like I said, I just wanted to write songs very instinctively, and it very immediately just felt like an outlet and something that I could do that I enjoyed and felt good and like made me happy. And it was weird. Like I didn't really give that much thought to whether people were going to think it was good or not. And I think as I kept going, I kind of realized that I wasn't a great singer, and people generally wouldn't say positive things about my voice when I was starting out. And so then I was kind of like, okay, well, people don't like my singing voice, and that's fine. And I kind of just was like, again, thought about it more about what I enjoyed about doing it and less about, what people thought.
That's a great outlook, actually. I mean, especially as a young kid, to have, the confidence to be like, I don't really care what you think of me. I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah, that was generally my attitude, and mostly my attitude throughout the rest of my life, I would say.
It's a great attitude to have. With that band, did you guys do anything outside of that one performance, or?
We did actually. We kept going, and we recorded an album a year later, actually. And my girlfriend at the time ended up being the singer for the band eventually, partially because the other guys didn't like my singing voice very much. And I was happy to have my girlfriend in the band. And and then I would sing some songs, and our bass player would sing some songs, who incidentally ended up being the singer for Brand New. It was Jesse. We went to school together.
So, I didn't realize that you guys went to high school together.
We did, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we actually went to elementary school through high school together.
Wow.
So he would sing some songs, I would sing some songs, and my girlfriend would sing most of them. And we recorded an album of like 11 songs that we raised money by, we kind of did like analog Kickstarter, or one of those GoFundMe. Basically, we got people to pay for the CD before we recorded it, like our friends and like parents.
Wow.
And parents' friends. So, like we wrote this whole thing up and got people to pay $10 or whatever it was,
like
pledge. For a CD. Yeah, basically they gave us the money, and we promised to record a CD and get it to them, and we did it. So, and then we kept playing all through the rest of high school, and we would play shows here and there. We didn't do a ton. It would mostly be like church basements and things like that, but yeah, we went for it.
Do you have that CD by chance?
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I would love to hear that. I could imagine you should release that. Is that out anywhere?
It's on the internet now.
It is.
Yeah, the band was called Gudmundur Bjornsson. Probably should have been pronounced Bjornsson, but we didn't really know anything. I forget where it is. But you can find it now. I actually put it out because I saw a bunch of brand new fans were someone was selling it on eBay, and a bunch of brand new fans were trying to get it, and they were going to pay like $150 for this CD.
I would pay $150 for that CD.
Yeah, I guess people would. And I saw that though, and I was like, it's not worth $150 to hear our high school band basically learning how to write and record music at 17. So I just I put it up on some like SoundCloud or something.
Okay.
And then I think from there somebody downloaded it and put it up in other places. So it's around.
Oh man, internet. I know. I'm listening to that right after we get off of this call. That's amazing.
Yeah, maybe you can include a link with the podcast or something.
Oh, I would love to do that. That's a great idea.
But it's pretty embarrassing. Really, I didn't want it to be out there necessarily. It's not like, oh, I'm so proud of this thing and I wanted everyone to hear it, but I just really didn't want people to be spending so much money on this, little project we did 30 years ago.
Sure. But I mean, fans of yours, obviously fans of Brand New, myself included, or will get a huge kick out of hearing that. I mean, that's really cool. And so obviously that band ran its course. And then from that band, was that when you joined Taking Back Sunday, or Taking Back Sunday kind of got together?
No, it took a little while for me to find Taking Back Sunday. I was kind of, so our band, we kept going for the summer after high school. Okay. And I actually decided that I wanted to be in a band for a living. And I didn't go to college, and I got a job working for my dad, who would do upholstery repair in cars. Mm-hmm. And big part of the reason I did that is because it was his company and I could kind of make my own hours. If I needed to take a day off, it was not a big deal. I only made money for like what I did. Basically, It wasn't like an hourly thing. So if I didn't work for a day or two, I just didn't make money. So I could do stuff with bands when I needed to. The thing was though, I didn't have any prospect of making it in a band at that point. I just had the high school band who hadn't done very much. And so what happened then was it was about 3 years, I would say, maybe a little more, of just kind of like starting a band with anybody that I knew who wanted to start a band, and playing music with as many people as I could. And eventually that led to Taking Back Sunday.
Wow. And in the beginning, you guys had a different singer too, right? I mean, Antonio.
We did, yeah.
A guy named Antonio was a singer.
Yeah, and I got in the band through him. We actually started a band. He was in my church, and I went to school with him for a little bit too. And we started a band together where we both sang, and we started to play some shows like in that scene, like the Long Island kind of punk emo scene, whatever. And then he knew Eddie from Taking Back Sunday, and Eddie was starting the band, and asked him to join as the singer, and he suggested me as a guitar player.
Wow. Do you guys have recordings of those sessions too?
We do, yeah. We made CDs of that, and we recorded a full length again, which is also it's on the internet.
Gosh, I didn't do enough digging for these early recordings yet.
Yeah, well, all that stuff is kind of like it's just people putting it on YouTube or something. Right. And I think the high school band. So you can find it. You just kind of have to, I think, know where to look.
That's interesting. I didn't, because last time we spoke, Shaun was there too, and he was telling us a story about how he wouldn't have really even made it in the band if Antonio didn't move or leave, and then Adam moving over, because Adam played bass. And
Yeah.
I guess he wanted to join the band in the beginning, and he was friends with Mark, and he was like, no, man, like these guys take this too seriously. Like you are too much of a flake type thing to do it. And then when Adam moved over, he got a chance to play.
That's exactly right.
That's cool. Well, you told us, I mean, in that other interview about, signing to Victory Records and how, huge of an accomplishment that was. And to get off of the Taking Back Sunday, part of your journey, I want to know about like forming Straylight Run with your sister in the band. Had you ever written with her prior to starting Straylight Run?
No, we didn't really ever play music together before that, which is kind of funny. She had learned piano. I think she took piano lessons as a kid and, knew how to play. She was learning guitar or a little bit before Straylight Run started. She was starting to get more serious about learning guitar. But she didn't even really write songs until a year or two before Straylight Run started.
Wow.
She always sang, and like I said, we play piano. She sings on some songs on the first Taking Back Sunday album, like some background vocals.
She sings on 2 of the tracks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she was always, kind of into singing and playing music, but she didn't really write songs. And then she started, and I started hearing her songs, and I was really surprised and impressed. I feel like had a knack for it and picked up a lot of stuff about songwriting pretty quickly. And so I was starting Straylight Run, and at the time we were actually I was living with her and a bunch of other people in a house. And so I was starting the band and getting things going. It was just me and Shaun like recording demos, and she was recording these demos at home that I was hearing. And so yeah, just asked her if she'd want to join the band, and she started recording with us and practicing with us, and that was that.
Wow. So did you guys kind of merge your songs together to create, what became that first record, or how did that first record kind of come together?
A lot of times on the first album, actually, really, I think everything, it was pretty much like if I was singing a part, it was something I had made up, and vice versa. So, like the songs that she sang, she had written, the lyrics and the melodies and the chord progression, and same for me. And then there was some songs where she would sing a part on, something that I had largely written, but kind of come up with her own part for, either a bridge or an ending or something. I think Sympathy for the Martyr, the last song on the first album, was kind of the most collaborative out of any of those songs, because Shaun wrote the music. I wrote like the first couple of verses and chorus, and then Michelle wrote the ending part. So that was one where everything kind of came together. But for the most part, it would be like her or I wrote lyrics, melody, chord progression, and brought it to the band, and and then would sing it.
Oh, okay. That's interesting that it took you guys so long to, collaborate or create something together.
Yeah, it is weird and funny.
It worked out, obviously. I did hear a story, and I don't know if this is true or not. I heard that when you guys recorded talking about her singing on the Tell All Your Friends album, when she went into the booth and recorded, so, like your parents were there, all your guys' parents were there, and somebody made a comment like, "Why isn't she singing for your band?"
That sounds right. I don't remember it specifically, but that's one of those things that rings true for sure. Yeah. And definitely with our parents, they were always, especially at the beginning of Taking Back Sunday, I think we're all supportive, but I don't think they enjoyed the sound of it at all. And then you hear Michelle's like pretty voice, and then they're like, oh, that's something I enjoy. Why don't you do that?
Right. That's awesome. Was it hard when you put that first record out, did you feel like a lot of pressure? Like you have to, you have something to prove. I mean, you're in Taking Back Sunday had really started to take off at this point, and you start this new band, and you come out the gate, and the record is awesome. Was that like a pressure of yours, or is it one of those things like you said earlier, like you didn't really even care?
With the first album, I was a little bit nervous about how well it would be received, but we had put a 5-song demo out before that. We did that pretty much immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just free. We put it on the internet, and that was very well received. And I think, but the time that when you saw us in 2003,
I don't think
we
the
were
record
actually
was out yet, right?
It was not out. We were touring basically off of those 5 demo songs that people had heard. And, we weren't wildly successful from that, but, we were bringing some people out and doing all right with basically nothing to sell at that point. And so that gave me a lot of confidence. That the batch of songs we had for the first album also gave me a lot of confidence. I felt like they were all really strong songs, and we had a strong album. And then it was kind of like the only thing I was nervous about was, how many people would buy it, basically.
I do remember that now. I forgot that the record, until you said that it wasn't out yet. It was just those demo songs that were up online that people could listen to. And a friend of mine who's in that photo, he's on the other side of you with the beard. He was like one of those early adopters of like finding stuff out on the internet and like finding songs and bands. And I remember he's wanted to go to Coachella to see the Killers, and they were like the first band on the list, and they obviously blew
ahead
up.
of the
But
curve on that.
yeah, he's one of those guys, and he was like, "Oh my God, John Nolan's new band," and we all listened. We like somehow recorded it and burned it onto a CD, and we're at the show, and you guys didn't have anything to sell. And I have it's packed away, but I have the ticket stub, and you and your sister both signed it because that was the only thing that like I could get you to. There was nothing else there.
Yeah, I think we might have had one shirt, if I
really
remember.
maybe
it
might have been sold out by the time you made it to San Diego.
It's possible, or we were like waiting to get them shipped because we had gone on tour before we got shirts made. I don't remember, but yeah, we didn't have much to sell, didn't really have much to promote except for the fact that we were a band and we existed. That was about it.
That's funny.
It's pretty crazy actually looking back on it. It seemed like a long time between Taking Back Sunday and Straylight Run, but looking back, it's insane because I think Shaun and I left Taking Back Sunday in like April or May of 2003, and by like October of 2003, Straylight Run had recorded a 5-song demo and was on tour already.
Wow.
So yeah, like in my mind, that time felt like a year, but it was probably about 4 months or something,
Oh, because
it's crazy.
That is crazy. Because it was pretty quickly that it was like, okay, he's not in the band anymore. And then it's like, oh, and now he's got this other project. And then sure enough, you came around town really quickly after that, which was amazing. And so this new, let's talk about this live record that you guys are putting out. This is from a show from what, 2005?
2005, yeah.
So was Prepare to Be Wrong was already out at this point, or you had
it was about to come out. I think we had just finished recording it actually and mixing it, so we were ready on our end with it, but I think it was still like 6 months away from coming out, which now looking back on it again was kind of a little bit of a crazy thing because we played, I think, almost every song from that EP at this live show. So yeah, it wasn't out yet, but it was a big part of that set.
That's crazy. And so I was just trying to, I saw the set list. I just found it online. I was wondering if you did the Dylan cover, and how did that one come about on that album? Because I love that cover. That's amazing.
Thanks. You know what? We actually did perform it, and we decided to leave it off this album because of basically just like getting the rights to
Oh, okay. So you
reproduce
did do
it.
it at that
So
show.
we did actually, yeah. The other thing too was, to me, listening back, there was a lot of slow songs in our set, a lot of like mid-tempo to slow songs, and that one is like 6+ minutes long and pretty slow. And
Mhm.
a little bit in retrospect, I felt like we need to keep the pace up a little bit more.
Okay.
But we recorded that one for the EP. I was pretty late to Bob Dylan. I didn't start really listening to his albums until like 2003-ish.
Okay.
But once I got into it, I really got in, and I basically started at the beginning of his catalog and started working my way through his whole discography. But with God on Our Side is from one of the earlier albums, and
Mhm.
I felt like it still rang true, and there was a lot that song had to say in the current situation. It wasn't too long after, when we were recording that, it wasn't too long after, you know, the war in Iraq started.
Mhm.
I mean, it had probably been going on for a little while, but it was getting to be the point where it was pretty clear that it was going to be dragging on for a very long
Mhm.
time, and maybe had been a bad idea in a lot of ways,
Mhm.
to say the least. But so for me, it kind of felt like, yeah, it was a good statement for the time, and I also felt like I had to come up with a cool way to make the song worth doing, because I felt like if you're gonna do a Bob Dylan song, you can't just like sit down and play on an acoustic guitar the way he did. You have to kind of
Mhm.
try to bring something new to the table, and I felt like we figured out a way to.
Sure. And you had multiple, because it wasn't just you singing, or it was like you and your sister singing. Like you had other voices on the recording
Yeah,
too.
yeah, and I think Jeff DeRosa maybe sang a verse on it. I can't remember actually, but I think he does. He was Michelle's husband, and
Yeah.
he
He's
was in
in.
a band called The Exit at the time, and he's in Dropkick Murphys now. But at the time, he was kind of doing a little stuff with us here and there, and I think he might have sang a verse, and then Michelle sang a verse, and I sang a couple.
Yeah, that's cool. And um, with well, going back to this live show. So, did you guys, you knew ahead of time you were going to do it? Like, tell me about this, the whole thing. You like filmed it, or like what was the build up? Why
Yeah.
was it this particular show? What was like the backstory to it?
So the whole idea was we were going to put on a show that was a lot more elaborate than what we had been doing. Um, we did, I think, 4 songs, 3 or 4 songs with a live string section, like a quartet, and we had, I think, 2 or 3 songs with like ballet dancers
Oh
on
wow.
stage, and I think the idea was we're going to do this thing at a bigger scale than we ever have before, and put out a DVD. And then I think initially we kind of thought we might take that show on the road, and make that kind of thing a tour out of that. And so that was the idea. The whole thing was set up just to record and release a DVD of it, and yeah, and then I think kickstart something else touring wise.
Mhm. So you had dancers and everything during this performance?
We did, yeah,
Wow. And
yeah.
then the footage, you guys scrapped the footage, or something happened with the
We
footage?
scrapped the foot. So the whole thing was really disappointing. It's like one of those things in retrospect that I think we could have easily avoided, and I think we were maybe a little bit too hands-on with everything. We didn't have a tour manager. Our manager was in LA and had like his assistant come out, but we like did everything. We got the dancers going ourselves. We got the string players arranged and rehearsed with them ourselves, and
Mhm.
then we got the guy who had shot the existentialism video to film it.
Oh,
And
okay.
then we're in this big beautiful theater, and while we were sound checking before the show, he's like, this place is amazing. I want to get a lot of shots of it while you guys are playing. And if the lights are down in the house, you're not going to be able to see any of this theater. And it also might be too dark on stage for me to get good footage of you guys during the performance. And again, we didn't have a lighting person. We just had the house lighting guy. So we were kind of like, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. It was amazing. There's a giant chandelier hanging above people.
Wow.
And it was a theater that probably was, over 100 years old. And so we were like, yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, I guess we'll keep the lights up, and they had lights going, but it was basically, when you first go into a venue and the house lights are up, it was like that for the whole show. And then when we saw the footage, for the first song or two, it's like, oh, okay, this looks cool. This looks good. But then by the third or fourth song, there's no light show. Nothing is changing, and by the fifth or sixth song, you're just seeing us on a well-lit stage, and it kind of looked like a sound check would, and yeah, there was some beautiful shots of the theater, and like what he filmed did look good, but once we were watching it, it's like we can't have 14 songs of just like plain lighting where nothing about the look of the stage changes the entire time. And we should have known that. We'd all been around long enough, and you watch a show and the lights are a big part of what makes it interesting to look at, but we just didn't think it through. And we watched it one time, and we were just like, we can't put this out like this. And pretty much that was that. And it was a huge bummer, because everything was lined up to come out. We had the audio and it sounded really good. And the plans were even made. I think they even put out like promos on, like Victory made promos for the show that were like video, that had some video footage, and it was all lined up, and we just felt like we can't put it out because it was just subpar. And in retrospect, I don't know if we had put it out as it was, if people would have just been like, oh, it's good, but it's the lighting is a little boring, or if people would have been like, what the hell is this? This is ridiculous. I don't know how people would react, but to us, it felt like we just couldn't put it out like that.
Put it out as a full DVD. And you had the string section and the dancers and everything?
Yeah, we did. And I guess that did keep it a little more interesting, but again, it was a long set. It was like an hour and 20 minutes. So it was a lot to just watch, just, plain lighting. And it was also in the days before, now you might think that you could put that into some kind of editing program maybe, and maybe change some things in that to keep it interesting. But, it's 2005, and, I think those options were pretty limited. So it just, we just scrapped it, unfortunately. And, again, I don't know if it was the right move. And it's one of those things I've thought about probably way too much over the years, like whether or not we should have done something with it instead of scrapping it. But,
is the footage still somewhere, or it's gone?
Somewhere, but I have no idea where, because we gave it, the guy who filmed it had all the footage. And he, back in those days, he'd send us a VHS tape of it to watch the edit. That was how you had to do things in 2005. And we were immediately unhappy with it. And we just talked to our management about it, and they talked to the guy and told him, but we didn't really talk to him anymore. And we just moved on. And so he probably either threw the stuff out or has him in a box somewhere, but I don't think we ever did anything with him or saw him again after that. So it's probably gone.
I was going to say there could be a rad couple of videos, I'm sure, in there, like some little vignette pieces of it that you can make into a couple little videos.
Yeah, it definitely would be cool for 3 or 4 songs.
Yeah, especially with the dancers and the string set. Did you ever bring that on the road then, or no?
No, that was
just
another
that one
thing.
Show.
Another thing that was a disappointment was not putting out the DVD. Kind of, I think, discouraged us from doing that live show. We also started looking at the logistics, traveling with 4 string players and 6 ballet dancers, you know, and it was one of those things where we were just like, well, we're going to have to pay for a second tour bus basically for all these people. And is this really going to be worth it? And then the DVD wasn't out there with all that stuff. So we didn't follow through on that, which again, it's kind of a regret, because I do think a little bit now it's like it might have helped to just do a tour like that and possibly like break even, or even maybe lose a little bit of money, but put on this bigger show that would, you know, really blow people away, instead of just going back out and doing the same thing we'd always been doing for the past 2 years, you know.
Well, there's still time. I'm just saying.
That's
You can do the tour, people will be blown away, and it wouldn't matter.
Yeah, I guess it's never too late.
Never too late. Never too late. So the audio obviously is amazing. And when do you stumble upon this footage? Like, what sparked the let's put this out?
Well, I've had it on my computer since we recorded it. So it's just been sitting in like my iTunes, you know, this whole time. And I think it was the pandemic probably that got me thinking about it, because you know, usually I've just been too busy with Taking Back Sunday stuff. And then when I've had time, downtime from that, I've really wanted to keep my solo stuff going. And so the Straylight Run, anything related to Straylight Run, is just kind of taken a back seat in my mind. But, you know, I had all this downtime because of the pandemic, and I decided to revisit it on the computer, and I listened through it. And I was like, this is surprisingly good. I had no idea if it would hold up after I hadn't listened to it in a long time. And so then I thought, well, we can just put it out on the internet. And that's what we did, because I was like, I didn't really think we needed to get into a whole big thing of pressing vinyl and trying to sell it. And I just figured we could put this out there easily and quickly and do it for a good cause, you know. And so that's what we did. It was only like, you know, maybe like 2 months from when I had the idea that we could put it out to just putting it up on Bandcamp, and we raised money for Feeding America with it. And we held back on some songs because I talked to Taking Back Sunday's manager, and I think she was maybe like, maybe hold some songs back in case you do want to do something more with this. So we did. I think we put 10 songs out for the Feeding America version of it. And then after that, I don't know, I guess, I know what happened is, this is the other thing, is Victory Records owned that stuff.
Oh.
Because we recorded it while we were under contract with them. And that was one reason I think we never thought about it too, is because we didn't necessarily want to get involved in sorting out all that stuff with them. But this label Concord bought Victory's catalog, and so they owned the record at that point, and they didn't even know it, obviously, because they didn't have it. I had it on my computer. And Concord also had Taking Back Sunday stuff. They put out that 20 album.
I was gonna say that's how they were able to do that 20-year record, right?
Yeah,
was through them. Okay.
So and we had a good experience with that. So that's what started it. Once we talked to them about like, hey, we've got this thing, and if you're interested, we could put it out. And then they were luckily like really all for it, you know, like doing the double vinyl and the packaging. It's just like they went all in on it. So it was really cool.
That's awesome. That's rad that you were able to keep that for so long, and then just happened to be like, you know what, it holds up for sure. I mean, even on my own playlist, it's funny. Before, like 2 weeks ago, I had my Spotify playlist coming through, and It's for the Best came on, and I'm like, God, I forgot how great this record is and how great Straylight Run. And I went back and we were listening to the whole. This was like 2 weeks ago. We listened to that whole first album. just driving around. And then it was so funny that they're like, oh, you know, you have the opportunity to talk with John. I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's like weird. It was like one of those weird fate situations, I felt like. And it's so
Yeah.
rad that you guys are doing this live album. To quickly touch on the pandemic, or where were you at when that all happened? Were you doing stuff with Taking Back Sunday or a solo tour, or where were you at when it all hit?
Taking Back Sunday had actually just gotten together in March, the beginning of March, for our first writing session for a new album. And we did a week or so in the studio together. And then Adam's family and my family went from there to do a vacation on the coast in South Carolina. And so we had like a week planned there. And basically it was that week where, I don't know if you remember, but it was kind of crazy because at the beginning of the week, it was sort of like, oh, everyone's aware that coronavirus is a thing. And, you know, we got to maybe be on the lookout for this, and it could be a problem. And by the end of the week there, it was like restaurants were shutting down, and
NBA canceled the season.
like
That's when you I was like, what was happening?
Everything went from like 0 to 100. And yeah, we were on vacation together, and we decided not to fly, which I'm glad we did in retrospect, because we didn't know anything about the virus at that point. And so we just stayed together with Adam's family for like another 2 weeks. Basically, we all just lived together. And then eventually my family and I rented a car and drove back home to Kansas.
Wow. In those situations, is it just family time or no business when you guys are hanging out like that? Like when you're stuck together for what you said, 2 weeks, are you guys writing at all, or is it just kind of like?
No, not really. We had acoustic guitars, and I usually in those situations it ends up being a little more like playing other people's songs that we know, you know, kind of just mess around with stuff like that. And after we were together and the pandemic was going for a little while, Adam started putting out some videos of him playing some cover songs, and I did some of those with him. Eventually, we ended up doing some live stream performances, just the two of us doing Taking Back Sunday stuff. So it kind of turned into a little more business stuff, but you know, like during vacation time, we just kept it to family time.
Sure,
yeah.
Sure. Wow. And throughout the pandemic, were you working on solo stuff at all, or like aside from doing the live streams, how are you keeping yourself busy?
Well, there was it was weird. There was a lot of time where I just would not do anything very creative. I just didn't feel motivated or in the right frame of mind for it. And it was kind of a bummer because I had never had so much time to sit down and just write and record. But a lot of times I just didn't feel, I just was not feeling up for it. But a few it, my wife had been getting more serious about the songs she was writing, and we started demoing some of those at home because she had this batch of songs, and then that started coming together. And I would play a bit on the songs with her and kind of record and produce them. And eventually we recorded an EP for of her songs. I think that was probably in like the end of summer, maybe fall of 2020. And so that was a creative project that we, you know, spent a few months on. And then there'd be occasionally these like this like week or so where I would have lots of ideas and motivation and record some demos and write some ideas down. And then it would go for another like month with nothing. And then, you know, a week or two of ideas and things. And then somewhere along the way, it was Anthony Green got in touch with me about some stuff that we had recorded on our phones when we were on tour together years ago. And then we started listening back to some of that stuff, and that eventually got going into recording songs for the project that ended up being Fucking Whatever.
Yeah.
So that was probably in like December of 2020. And that was a few months of recording from home with all of us and then getting that rolling. So that was another project that, you know, that was actually a really great creative outlet, because it was pretty different than trying to sit down by myself and be like, okay, what ideas can I come up with today? You know, and so that was kind of a lifesaver.
Is that a project you guys are gonna do anything with aside from putting out that record?
Yeah, we want to put out a full length eventually, and we'd like to do it in person, to record in person. We did everything obviously from home with emailing ideas back and forth, but so we'd like to get together when we have the time and put out a full length. And we also, I think we have like 5 songs already towards a full length. We had an insane burst of creative energy, and I think from like December through February we demoed I think like 11 songs or something, and we put out 5 of them for an EP.
Yeah, you did the EP, and then do you guys hope to tour it, or is it you're just going to come together as a record? Or
we're talking about it, obviously because of the nature of the recordings. Like we did everything basically a cappella, and we didn't use any traditional instruments. Even the drums were Ben, you know, hitting his table and glasses and walls and whatever he could come up with.
That's rad.
Yeah, and a lot of the what would be the music was kind of me doing oohs and ahs and layering them. So to do it live, we obviously have to figure out something that would be very different than a regular band performance. And we've talked about a lot of things, and we're definitely going to do something, but we just have to figure out how we would do it and when.
Yeah, for sure. And you guys are busy. Obviously, you have a big tour coming up with Taking Back Sunday and Jimmy Eat World with Beaches. So, but that'd be rad. I really love the EP you guys put out with that band. Very creative.
Yeah, I love it too.
Have you had a chance? Yeah, have you had a chance to play any shows yet since the pandemic?
We played one show in Florida in June, the beginning of June, or is it end of May or beginning of June? And it was a festival that we got offered kind of last minute, and we decided to take it. Like things at that point were actually looking better pandemic wise than they are now, which is crazy.
Right. I know.
And we were all vaccinated, so we felt good about getting together and doing a show. So we just did that one festival, and it was great. And you know, our September we got, I think the 17th is our first show since then.
Yeah. Wow. Was it, I'm sure, pretty emotional getting up there for the first time in what, a year plus?
It was, yeah. The thing that was crazy was it felt really surreal all day, like sound checking and then like looking at the show from backstage and just kind of seeing the opening bands playing and looking at a crowd again. It felt very surreal. But once we got on stage and after like a song, I was really surprised at how normal it felt. And there was definitely like an emotion that I have that, you know, I would, and it was a little bit overwhelming at times, but overall it kind of was just like, oh yeah, this is what we do. This is how it is. This is great. And I was really surprised because I thought it would feel different maybe and be weirder or I don't know, something, but it was not. It was pretty normal, which is weird.
Yeah, got back into your comfort zone kind of after
a
couple minutes there.
Kind of quickly.
Well, that's awesome that you guys are able to tour. Hopefully this Delta variant thing doesn't screw up too much activity coming up here for everybody. But
yeah,
I moved to Nashville, so I'm bummed that I'm not going to be able to see you guys. You're playing San Diego, but hopefully you'll do something over here sooner than later. But I appreciate, John, you taking time to talk with me, man. This has been awesome.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is fun.
Yeah. I have one more question before I let you go.
Sure.
I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Um, any advice I have is kind of based on my own experience, obviously, I guess. So I would say, don't go to college. Don't have a backup plan for yourself. Put all your eggs in one basket and hope it works out. I'm only half joking about there has been times where I've thought, though, that if I did have a backup plan, that if I was good at something else, good enough to make a living at it and make money, that I might have given up on playing music. Because like I said, that like 3 years from graduating high school to joining Taking Back Sunday sounds pretty quick. And in a lot of ways it is. But those 3 years when you don't have any real prospect of being successful and you don't have a career really, and you're not looking at anything down the road that's going to be a career, it's pretty scary. But it also motivated me to keep going. And so I do think there is something to that. If you want to do it, like really go all in on it, and don't put too much of a safety net up for yourself, because you might choose that over continuing to try to play music. And so I think if you know it's what you want to do and it's what you love, that you kind of have to approach it like that.